I appreciate there are a lot of gurus online preaching which app or system to use, and perhaps I'm one of them. But in reality, there's a system and app independent way of doing things that's perhaps a lot better. And in this video today, I'm going to try and show you what that method is. But first, we have to go back to an idea that I covered in a previous video of mine. So everyone's trying out the new apps and methods and systems and things that are getting marketed to you, but nobody actually wants to do the right things the right way around. And so we start off with, again, covering the fact that you need a purpose for taking notes. So this is what I struggled with a long time ago, back in 2021, 2022, kind of around the end of my A-levels and heading towards going to university, when I didn't really have any need for managing my databases in Notion or taking notes in OneNote or using like the handwritten notes in OneNote, using the trackpad and mouse to try and write things. There was no need to be doing any of that. What I really needed to do was practice answering maths questions again and again, and then go over biology flashcards. But I struggled with my PKM, and that was in Notion, in OneNote, like I said, and then later I moved on to trying all these different apps because I was convinced in my head that the solution was out there in these apps somewhere, when in reality it wasn't. I needed a better and more concrete and more realistic purpose for taking notes. And when I headed into university and actually had a more realistic and genuine need for a knowledge management system, that's when a simple way of doing it started to emerge. So I urge you to get really clear and really directly focused on what your outcomes that you want to achieve are. So what do you need to create for your work, for your business, for your studies? What's your desired outcome in your studies as well? So have that fixed in your mind so that you know what enough or what the right features are or what a suitable note-taking system feels like when you go into developing one in these next steps. And so the laziest way, as we mentioned, to go from having nothing to having a good note-taking system is to build from the ground up. So remember this, build from the ground up. We don't start with lots and lots of different features and then subtract until we have the one feature or the two features left that we have an actual need for. We start from the ground up, from something simple, and then perhaps later on we add slightly more complexity into the system. And I know we could start from absolutely zero, like using Google Docs, and sometimes this is an example that I like to use inside of my other videos when I'm talking about simplicity and note-taking. But when we're talking about the laziest way of doing things, it probably means a simple template rather than nothing is the best place to start. And this is what the Parazettal for Obsidian template, shameless plug, is designed to be. And I used to charge for it, and recently I made it free alongside a 30-minute demonstration video that I walk through my own vault in and walk you through the Parazettal for Obsidian vault in. And you can get that at the top link in the description if you do want the real laziest way to start taking notes minimally in Obsidian. We've got a community there as well that you enter to get these bonuses, and it's all free for you. So check that out if you think it's something that you might want. But anyway, you can use anybody else's other template. I mean, I'm not saying that Parazettal is the one way to start because it's Obsidian only as well, you see. And I mean, if you want to use Notion or a different app, I mean, I'm not here to, like I said, preach a certain system or methodology or app. I just want you to find somewhere simple. Simple is the key word, is the thing I want you to take away from this. Have a really simple place from you to start and then build from, rather than taking something complex and having to pare it down. Start simple, start really simple. So whether that's Parazettal or not, that's your choice. But after this, you simply start working. Just use the really simple system to start working and make as much progress towards the goals that you outlined in that first step. Make enough progress towards those that you are using your system and you figure out how these simple elements of it work and you get slightly comfortable in using the system. But eventually you're going to hit a roadblock. Perhaps you need a certain feature. Perhaps you're dissatisfied by how underpowered the system has become. But in truth, you'd be surprised at how much progress towards a certain goal you can make in a really, really simple system. Like oftentimes you just need notes on the side as a reminder or as a collection of ideas, and you don't really need to be, like I always preach, the 40-step AI workflow that's kind of doing everything for you, but really isn't. It's just making you more and more distracted. You don't need that to make real significant progress towards your goals. And so you'd be surprised at how long you'll be able to work in a really, really simple system before a roadblock in your workflow calls for additional features. And so this is what I did myself with Parazetto was I had all of these different kind of simple folders and simple systems to be working in, and they did fine until a good example I like to use is in university. I needed a way to manage my kind of references and reference material that I was using in my writing and then bring them into play inside of my Obsidian Vault. And so instead of perhaps going, oh, I need a different app to be able to write my academic documents, I was like, no, are there one or two tweaks that we can make inside of Obsidian? And so I found I don't use it anymore, but there is a plugin called Citations, and that allowed me to export all my references from my reference manager I was already using and then bring them into the text inside of Obsidian very simply. And that was the minimum viable solution to a roadblock that I was facing. I would just bring in one plugin, one extra feature, and then you can continue to work. You don't need to keep bringing in all these features. You just work again with this one new feature that you've added, and then eventually you might run into another roadblock. So rinse and repeat it. And at some point, I'm not going to say when because it's a slow process. You've got to evolve your system slowly. But at some point, this problem disappears. You hit roadblocks and you fix them, and then you just continue to work inside of your system without running into too much of an issue. And this is minimal note-taking at its finest. Really, you don't want to be starting off on the complex end and kind of getting confused and then disillusioned with a certain app and then realizing that you've got to perhaps try this new shiny system and heading over to another app and adopting another system. You don't need this, and starting from too complex a side of things will always make you believe that going somewhere else and trying something else is the solution. It's not. Find a very simple template and build it up slowly but surely, really just prioritizing using the system for work rather than using the system as a form of distraction. And so that is the laziest way to get started with note-taking in 2025, 2026. And it's the method I use myself after I kind of realized that app switching and system switching and placing all of my eggs in one basket, then moving them over to another place and putting them all in that basket was the wrong way to go about things. Parazetto is one of these good starting points. I'm not going to say it's the only one, but the vault that used to be paid is now made for free, alongside a 30-minute demo vid inside of my new school community, which we're trying to grow and create a thriving environment for people who are wanting to learn more about PKM to come and bounce off of each other and generate ideas and solutions together. It's a place for them to do that. It's the top link in the description. Hopefully I see you in there, and until then, take care and thank you for watching.